Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Vivian Chen, author of the Noodle Shop Mysteries. My obligatory plug for today, the video we're creating is for Wonton Terror, which is number 4 in the series. So the deadline for this video is going to be May 1st. You have until 12 p.m. Eastern to leave a comment. You must be a subscriber to qualify. I am also looking into whether or not I have codes for the series beginning at Wonton Terror. I can't quite remember. I, of course, forgot about it until it was time to record. So I made a note for myself that I'm going to look for my Spotify codes. If I can find them, then I will open up this contest to international residents, and there'll be 2 winners. There'll be an audio winner, and then there will be the physical copy. So the physical copy will stay for U.S. residents only due to shipping costs. And then like if anyone's from Canada or anything like that, you can win a copy of the audio that takes you directly to Spotify. I will mark that in the comments if I find that. So I record these on Tuesdays and I put them up on Thursdays. You're going to have to excuse me today. My allergies are out of control. So, yeah, if I find it, I will put it up on the comments, or not the comments, the description. I'm not redoing that, okay? So, today we're going to talk about Wonton Terror. I'm really excited. This is a little bit more lighthearted backstory than my last week description of Murder Lo-Mein, which I enjoyed, and I thank everybody for the comments that you've left, and, adding to the commentary. I always love to hear from other people. I love to hear from people who've had similar experiences that I've had. I'm always shocked and amazed when I meet somebody who their life almost, we almost mirror each other. And it really shouldn't be that uncommon, I guess, because there's a whole generation of us that are products of, our parents being in the military, going to the Vietnam War situations. So I thank you for commenting and sharing your stories with me. I love to hear them. You are definitely not alone. We are in that area together. So Wonton Terror. Let me read the blurb. Okay, so last week I talked about how I've been trying to match all of my outfits to the covers. However, today I came across my first hiccup as I don't have anything in this colorway. So my hair will have to stand in, and I got these cute readers. So they match my hair. So let's put those on. Okay, so the little blurb up here says, Holy Noodle House is ready to win a local culinary competition until a brand new food venue literally explodes onto the scene. Lana Lee is all smiles when the first evening of Cleveland's Asian night market kicks off the summer. The weekly festival is always good for business, packed with locals and tourists, and this year some stiff new food truck competition. Wonton on Wheels, run by old friends of Lana's parents, promises to have customers lining up for their delicately wrapped delights until the truck blows up at evening's end. Lana's boyfriend, Detective Adam Trudeau, had been planning a birthday getaway for the 2 of them, but lo and behold, Lana must assume the role of amateur sleuth yet again. With one proprietor of Wonton on Wheels dead, it's beginning to look more like murder and less like an unfortunate accident. And as they begin to unwrap layers of disturbing secrets, Lana's own family erupts into new drama. Will Lana be able to solve this crime, or has she jumped from the walk right into the fire? There's a lot of tongue tires in there. So, let's talk about this. Okay, so the night market, the Cleveland Asian night market is a real thing. Unfortunately, I think since COVID, we are not doing it anymore, and we just have the Asian festival in May, which this is a sidebar. I'm really excited. I'm going to do some content creator shout outs for Asian creators. I was trying to think of a different word, couldn't find one. Because May is Asian Pacific Islander Acknowledgement Month, or whatever people call it. So I thought it would be fun if I did some showcasing to show different Asian creators of all kinds, whether it be, food related, cosmetic related, planner related. Shout out to my girl at Simply Gilded. I love her. But yeah, I wanted to do something like that. So that's a sidebar. It is unfortunate. I think the night market was a lot of fun when we did have it. I assume that it cost the organizers a lot of money to put it together, because you're closing down an entire city street to do this, and you don't know how it's going to go, and but I thought it was great. I had a blast. There was so much good food, and there is so much to see, and there's so many like Asian owned businesses that I had no idea about. And there was also non-Asian stuff there as well. People who made Cleveland centric things. Like there was this one guy that had an entire booth, and he made ceramic coasters that had, or no, they weren't ceramic. That was somebody else. He made wooden ones. I actually have some, but wooden coasters that had things that were related to Cleveland and Cleveland Pride. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I do miss going. And while I was there, my anxious mind got the best of me, and I thought, wow, this would be a really bad place to get jammed in, like if something were to happen. And I think that anybody who watches this who also struggles with anxiety, I think that you probably play out scenarios in your mind when you go certain places that is population heavy. It can be a lot, and I do have fun with it though. Like I know some of my friends that have anxiety, they will not step foot in any type of festival or fair or large concert because it's too much for them. Like it's too much activity around them, but I do like it, and I kind of stay towards the edges, just so I have a better feel. I can kind of see everything. I don't like to be smack dab in the middle of it. But that's kind of where the idea came for this book. It was just something rolling around in my head. I didn't know that that's what I was going to do. When I think of, because again, they made the titles and I picked them. When I thought about Wonton terror, the word that sticks out to me the most is terror. What is terrorizing? And that's, a public setting, and, exploding a food truck. So I actually had to get help from somebody that I knew who understands explosives and all of that stuff, and how to make this work with a large crowd. And like, how could there be not like total chaos? Like I wanted it to kind of be, like confined, but not too confined, because I needed it to affect Lana. I needed to affect the people that she works with. I needed to affect, enough to where it scared people, like, that there is an imminent, threat to this happening, right? And I had a lot of fun with it in a weird, writerly way. So after I had wrote this book, a local, it's Idea Stream. It's a public channel. They were doing a radio spot, and they asked me if I wanted to come talk with them about the release of this book. And I'll have to put some pictures. I'll put it here. And I do that so I know where to look for in the video. But I will show you some photos from then. It was a lot of fun to go on the radio. I got the big microphone. You'll see. But, I got the big microphone, and I got to wear a headset, and I felt cool, okay? I'll be honest, I'll be cool. I felt cool. So, in it, the guy, he was very nice. I had never met him before. We had never spoken. And I had a sort of idea of what he was going to talk about, but I really didn't. And I had never done anything like this before. So one of the questions that he asked me was, so according to what I've read on your book, you blow up a food truck on Rockwell Avenue. How do you feel about that? How did you feel about writing that? And I was like, I felt pretty good. And it sounded so weird and morbid, and it was not my intention at all, but just saying that, like, I felt good about the story. I feel like I did a good job in portraying, like, the pandemonium that would be going around you. You know, I mean, I'm creating all of this from my mind. It's not that I've ever experienced that situation. You know, this is the fleshing out of an anxious person's brain and how they think it would feel, and they're imagining it and they're putting themselves in that place, you know. And like, to boot, on top of being anxious, I'm also an empath, so I feel a lot of everything that I do, you know. Like, when I write a book, I'm like in it, I'm feeling what the characters are feeling, you know. And I take from my own feelings of anxiety or fear and try and like put them onto the page to create a more realistic sensation. Um, you know, and sometimes it has to be dulled down because it is cozy. So some of the impact that I have put in my words has been, you know, edited out to make it a little bit more lighthearted, which is okay with me. I'd rather go, you know, above and be told I need to tone it down than to not bring it to begin with. So, you know, that part was really important to me to create that environment, and I felt good about it. And I felt so stupid when I said that because it's going on the radio. Like, people are going to be in their cars driving to work and hearing this. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? But, you know, it was fine. It was all in good fun. So that was my little funny tidbit for, you know, what was going on when I wrote that. But a lot of the book is, so it's Lana's, her birthday is approaching, and her and Adam are planning to go away with each other, and that's how the book starts. She's asking Peter, do you think I should go to the Poconos or Put-in-Bay? You know, and she's feeling very lighthearted. She's starting to feel happy. Things are starting to become normal. She's settling into her role as restaurant manager. You know, she's excited. They're going to be doing this event at the Asian night market where they have a food truck. Or no, I'm sorry, they don't have a food truck. They have a stand, but they're by the food trucks. And, you know, she's very excited because this is going to be like buku bucks for the restaurant, right? It's going to have exposure for their restaurant. Hopefully they're going to get more business. She wants to do a good job being the manager. She wants to come up with innovative ideas. And then kind of everything goes wrong at the night market, because what fun would it be if it didn't? You know, I mean, that's why we're here, right? To read this book and see, you know, what happens and how she overcomes it. So that's one layer, right? Then the other layer, because I add very multiple layers to kind of create this, like, she's being torn in all these different ways, you know. Like, another aspect that I put in and out of all of the books is the fact that her mother constantly wants her to reinvent the restaurant's design, but it gets kiboshed every time because they argue about what it should look like, you know. And so I mentioned that sparingly, because I never want to truly take away from the plot or from other more important aspects, like dealing with Lana's personal life and how it intertwines into the murders or whatever's going on at the time. So one of the things that I do in this book is I introduce Lana's very, very Americanized Aunt Grace. Grace Richardson is a character that I thought up immediately. However, she didn't have a place in any of the other books until now. She's mentioned, I believe, but I wanted to actually show her. And I felt like it was a really important dynamic to show generational transference. Okay, so you have Lana's mom, who's the older sister, and you have her aunt, you know, Betty Lee's sister, Grace, who is, you know, the younger sister. So now you have Betty and Grace, and you have Anna Mae and Lana, and you're starting to see how the generational teachings and all of that stuff, and I don't want to say tropes, because I don't think that's the right word. Maybe stereotypes is the right word. But the stereotypes of older sister versus younger sister and how they kind of travel through the different generations, almost as if it's like a rite of passage, you know? So I talk about like comparing the differences between the two women, and you get to see Lana's mom have a little bit more depth, and you see from a different viewpoint, like kind of like what, it's almost like it makes Lana understand her mom a little bit more. And it also makes her understand Anna May a little bit more. It's not to say that she's going to be okay with it or that they're going to get along and it's hunky-dory, but she kind of gets a different perspective of like, oh, this is why Anna May acts like this, right? So when I was looking at the chapters and trying to figure out where I was going to talk about today, I thought I found a receipt in the book. I always show my copies. These are never the copies that you're going to win. These are my personal copies that are like bent up and stuff. I use them for reference when I write books to make sure that, you know, I have things that make sense later on down the line. And I must have been place marking Grace Richardson, I'm sorry, because there was a receipt in that page, and then I was like, what, you know, what was I doing with this? And then I figured it out. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I actually found 2 spots that I'd like to read to you today. So I very rarely read from my own books. Just periodically, I will do it. Okay, so, and nothing gets ruined, by the way. So if you haven't read Wonton Terror yet, the parts that I'm going to read will not give away anything. So the first part that I'm going to read is in chapter 7, and it's shortly after, well, it's after like the main things happen, and Lana and Anna May go to the Noodle Shop on a Sunday, which is, they don't normally do, but they have to because, you know, their parents are busy with like the passing of their friend and going, you know, to stuff for that. So this is where Anna May and Lana walk into Asia Village, and they see their Aunt Grace. Okay, here we go. We headed into the plaza and made a beeline for the restaurant. As we got closer, I noticed an attractive middle-aged woman sitting on the bench across from our restaurant. Her head was bent down as she scrolled through her phone, and long black hair covered her face from view. A large Prada bag sat at her side. She was dressed in a short-sleeved red silk blouse, a beige knee-length skirt, and matching pumps. I didn't need to see any more of her to know who she was. I grabbed Anna May's arm and stopped walking. Oh my God, she's here already? Who? Anna May asked, following my line of sight. She gasped. What? She's a week earlier than she originally told us. We shared a glance and then continued walking toward the woman. Aunt Grace, I flashed my biggest smile as we approached her. What are you doing here? Girls. That's how I pictured it. She's like, girls, my darlings. Okay. That my darlings part's not in there, so don't look for it. Okay, Grace Richardson, my mother's extremely Americanized sister, stood up with outstretched arms. Come here and give me a hug. It is so great to see you both. The 3 of us gathered together for a group hug. In the minute we embraced, I could smell the Chanel No. 5 she was known to wear. Flashes of childhood memories with visits from Aunt Grace filled my head, and suddenly I was 6 years old all over again. What are you doing here? Anna May repeated as we stepped back from one another. We weren't expecting you until late next week. It's Grace. Well, I was up at Martha's Vineyard with some friends and found myself completely bored. It was me and 2 married couples, so you can imagine how I felt. I figured, why not surprise all of you and come a week early? I rented a car and assumed everyone would be here. She gestured to the closed restaurant. But then I saw you have different hours today, so I thought I'd sit and catch up on some work emails. We go to dim sum every Sunday morning before opening, I explained. Usually Mom and Dad handle the Sunday hours, but they went to visit a family friend. I trailed off. I knew my mother wouldn't want me to share any of the specifics just yet. I'll explain that. Oh, that's right. I forgot you guys have that little family tradition. I was going to call your mother, but I thought it would be more fun to surprise her, Aunt Grace said with a sigh. My sister gently brushed my arm with her elbow. She is going to be so surprised, you have no idea. Shall we go inside? The three of us entered the restaurant, and I went about flipping on lights while Anna Mae and Aunt Grace talked about my sister's law studies. Don't get me wrong, I really like my Aunt Grace. She's a great woman, but here's the thing. She turns my mother into a nightmare. The two women are as different as night and day. My aunt is more carefree while my mother is reserved. Aunt Grace never settles too long in one area, though she does have a stable residence she keeps in California. Meanwhile, my mother hasn't left Northeast Ohio since she came to this country. Though our differences aren't the same as theirs, I often think that Anna Mae and I are also from two totally separate pea pods. I wonder from time to time how we'll be when we're their age, but honestly, I don't think it will be this bad. At least I hope not. So, okay, I'm going to read a little bit, like a page and a half more, and then I'm going to explain some things. So now, Lana's talking. I'll get us some tea, I shouted from the back of the restaurant before disappearing into the kitchen. On top of all that, she's going back to, her explanation. My mother and aunt came to the United States for very different reasons. My mother came first as sort of an exploratory adventure. She wanted to study abroad, and she ended up meeting my dad. Her original plan was not to stay, but love will set your life on a completely different path. But my aunt, well, she just wanted to get away from what she considered a mundane life in a country that, at the time, wasn't advancing to her liking. So she married an American man, hence the surname Richardson. She kept the American name and citizenship, but ditched the husband and moved on with her life, becoming the most free-spirited person I'd ever met. As a freelance writer for a popular travel magazine on the West Coast, she's able to spend a lot of her time jetting around the world and visiting one fabulous location after the next. Her trip's expenses are all business related, and she's compensated very nicely for uprooting herself most of the year. And from what we can tell, she has no intention of settling down. That drives my mother insane. She can't stand the lack of regimen in her sister's life and has begged her often to stay in one place and find a good man to marry. Sound familiar? At my aunt's age, having children is a conversation of the past, so my mother has let that part of the equation go. But she will never approve of my aunt's carefree lifestyle. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. So the first thing I want to talk about is just really quickly the part where I said she stops talking about what's going on because her... they went to go, visit the family friend, and then Lana kind of stops because she knew her mom wouldn't want her to do that. Now, there is kind of a stigma in Asian culture. At least I think it's a stigma. I don't know. Other people may have a different opinion, and that's okay. But there's this thing, and I noticed it in Italian culture, actually, too. You don't discuss your issues outside of the immediate family. Not even with, like an aunt or an uncle or someone outside of that, like, nuclear family. Everything is good. Everything is great. There's no problems. And certainly Lana's mother would not want to share this devastating news with her younger sister because she wants her sister to believe that her life is great, is wonderful. She's got it together. There is this imagery of Betty Lee being very old-fashioned, wanting things to be a certain way. She's stable and she stays in one place, and you marry a good man. And then you have the other part of it where somebody wants to be adventurous and explore. And so you kind of see that mirrored with Anna Mae and Lana as well. Lana is dyeing her hair funky colors, and her nail polish is often chipped. And, you know, she likes to be spunky and she's kind of loud. And then Anna May is the dutiful daughter, and she is the one who is like, you know, pristine, and she knows how to speak not only Hokkien, but she knows Mandarin and a little bit of Cantonese, and, you know, and she's very smart. She's going to law school. You know, she is what it would be considered an ideal daughter. And originally, it kind of just worked out that way. I didn't really initially plan that to mirror each other in the way that it did, but I found that Lana was really identifying with Aunt Grace, and why is her mother being so hard on her? You know, this is the life that she chose. This is what she wanted. And I wanted to show that part about Betty Lee coming to the United States for different reasons than her sister, because, you know, that is true to life. I mean, there are different reasons people leave any country, really. You know, some are like, I just want to get to America. I know, especially in the past, it was like, you know, this like, I don't want to say imaginative, but this inflated sense of everything is perfect here, and you're going to have all the opportunities here, and you could have more opportunities than any place else in the world, and you could do all the, you know, and so people are like, I want that, I want that. And then other people are like, well, you know, school is important, I want to go get a good education. You know, and then other people, you know, maybe it's for business, you know, like they work for an international company, you know. So I wanted to kind of showcase that and show that these two sisters, while they did end up in the same place, which is outside of Taiwan, that they came for different reasons and are doing different things with what they got, you know. Like, you know, I mentioned Betty does not leave Northeast Ohio. Well, Grace is jet setting all over the place. She works for a travel magazine. I mean, she's getting paid to go to like the Bahamas and St. Thomas and whatever else. And I do some fun things with Aunt Grace in later books, and I can't wait to talk about that too, because I love it. I love it so much. But, you know, I really wanted to showcase the difference between the sisters. And then, like I said, give Lana some perspective and be like, this is why, you know. So that's that part. And then there's one more part I wanted to read. I feel like I lost the receipt. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, wait, maybe here it is. Oh, yeah, I found it. I found it. Don't worry. Okay, so this is later on in the book. This is in chapter 18. And they are at, I think they're at dim sum. Maybe they're at dinner. They're out to eat. I should have planned that part better, but it was such a last minute. It was such a last minute decision to read this that I was like, well, get your show on the road here, because, you know, I have stall tactics. All right, so the food had come. Lana's dad says that he's starved. There's tension about what Lana's mom thinks about the murder case. Okay. So then Aunt Grace, I apologize for the pause. So Aunt Grace doesn't want to let the subject go, because everybody else, you know, Lana's dad is like, maybe we shouldn't talk about this. He's trying to change the subject. My aunt would not let it drop. Betty, if you know something, then you need to speak up. I thought about how my mother had kept secrets for her friends in the past, and I wondered how many secrets she actually knew. Mom, ... My dad huffed. Listen, there are some things we don't discuss at dinner, and I think this is one of those issues. Adam squeezed my shoulder. I'd forgotten all about him. I was so focused on my mother and her sudden desire to avoid answering questions about Sandra. I think your father is right, Lana. Why don't we just enjoy dinner? If you were trying to get points with the old man, you're not doing too bad, my father quipped. I unwrapped my chopsticks while contemplating what my mother could know that wasn't public knowledge. I didn't feel like Sandra would tell my mother about a scheme that she had been cooking up recently because they weren't that close anymore. If Sandra was going to tell anything to anybody, it would be Ruby. So if my mother knew something, it would have to be from a long time ago. I didn't have much longer to think about it because my aunt started a new argument. As my Aunt Grace spooned Szechuan shrimp onto her plate, she frowned at my mother and said, "This is just like you, Betty. Always thinking you are better than everybody. You know what's best for everyone. This is why you always have problems." And that's all it took. My mother lost the cool she had been attempting to keep and unleashed a string of profanities in Hokkien. My grandmother almost choked on a piece of broccoli. I'm sorry, you guys. It's funny to me. I laugh at my own writing, okay? I'm a dork. It wouldn't have been such a big deal in any other setting, but we were in a Chinese restaurant with largely Chinese customers, and everyone turned around to gawk at us. Anna Mae and I both sank in our seats. My father shook his head, and my aunt sat there with her mouth wide open in shock. Adam leaned in. What did she say? You don't want to know. The server came over and relayed to my father that another customer had complained. I sank even further in my seat, my cheeks turning red. Just another Lee family dinner. So it was dinner. Okay. So, that part. One part of that is showing, Betty she's the gatekeeper for a lot of secrets. Her and her friends, they all stick together. They're bonded by the fact that they're all immigrants and that they have to fend for one another. So they keep each other's secrets, and Betty feels very strongly about that. You don't go against the family. So, I wanted to show that part where Betty is conflicted, because in this book, Betty Lee gets some depth. You get to see more about her, to kind of explain why she is the way that she is in later books, The other thing I wanted to point out, the reason why I wanted to read that specific excerpt is because it showcases perfectly Aunt Grace saying the wrong thing to Betty and creating an argument out of thin air, because that's what Lana and Anna Mae do. Lana will say something. She can't hold her tongue. She tries, but she can't, and she ends up saying something to her sister, and her sister snaps back. And then it ends up causing a scene, and everybody that's around them is embarrassed. It's too perfect, and it's like, this stuff comes as I'm writing it, because like I said, I don't plot things. When I'm writing this dinner scene, I'm literally at the dinner with them as, an overseer. And I'm watching the conversation, and one person says something, and then all of a sudden I hear the comeback for that, So it was a lot of fun. I do enjoy it. But my time is getting long, and I don't want to keep you guys more than necessary. So I will leave it at that. I had a lot of fun writing this book. Truthfully, I have a lot of fun writing all of my books. There are a couple which were problem children. We haven't discussed them yet. We will, because they're coming up next week, you guys. Oh, next week is Egg Drop Dead, my favorite child before Crime Rangoon, which I will get into that next week. But Egg Drop Dead is one of my favoriteest books of all of the books, because I added in the private detective Lydia Shepherd that I wrote back in college. We'll talk about that next week. So I'm super excited. But again, so May 1st is the deadline for this one, 12 p.m. Eastern. Leave a comment. You must be a subscriber. Check the comments or not the comments, I keep saying that. Check the description to see if I put anything about opening it up for international residents. I hope that I can. I don't know if I have those codes. It's been so long. So I will look into that before Thursday and make sure that I include it in the copy. I hope you guys enjoyed today. I had fun reading from my book. I think I should do that more often. You know, because it gives it a little bit more context. But I never liked reading out loud because I do trip on my words sometimes. But that's okay. No one is perfect, right? So, yeah, leave me your comments. Let me know what you think. I hope you are still enjoying this series. I am having a blast. If nobody told you today, my friends, you look absolutely amazing. Take care.